everybody had them penciled in. Everybody was talking about how good they were, and they went and blew a massive must-win game at home as a big favorite to a rookie quarterback. Commanders at Lions. I gave out the Commanders money line last week on Tuesday at plus 400. I think Noah went the safe route and played the spread, if I remember correctly. Noah's
You are
scared.
correct.
I don't know if you guys ever noticed that throughout this whole duration of this podcast. He's scared. First thing that I want to really harp on is everybody that gassed up the Lions. And now that the Commanders beat them, it feels like the win that the Commanders had is extremely underplayed. And I just want to shout out Jaden Daniels, who he is the best quarterback playing the best football as a quarterback in the playoffs right now. No debate.
He is correct.
Two back-to-back games with 300 total yards. He's been sacked once, 0 turnovers, playing the best out of everyone, willing the team to win. And it just feels like everybody, now that the Commanders won the game, is talking about like the Lions like did this, did that, and the other thing. We made it very clear from now on for the rest of time, if the OC and the DC and everybody is getting ready for head coaching jobs, if the process that goes into it, even if it's just a Zoom call or whatever that you're hopping on, think about, like, I saw a headline today that said like Ben Johnson's been busy putting together his staff. Like, it's like, well, the game that they just lost was 2 days ago. So
yeah, and he announced his Bears head coaching agreement the day after.
So it's definitely something that we are taking into account, like moving forward. I want to have a deeper discussion about the Lions, but let's just first talk about the game, because the game was amazing. It is probably like you couldn't ask for a better game than that. It was amazing. It was so fun to watch. My biggest takeaway from this is like the Lions are lucky they didn't get 50 put up on their head. If it wasn't for a bad, like a flat, awful, and they made up for it and then some on that 4th down call when they put Marcus Mariota in under center and Brian Robinson didn't know the play and they tried to pitch it back to Jaden Daniels. That play just didn't work. Whatever, it is what it is. And then an egregious face mask call on David Montgomery where he had his shoulder pad and they called a face mask.
Yeah,
that would have been that would have been 4th down and they would have gotten the ball back. The Lions are lucky that this beatdown wasn't worse than what it was. So what do you have to say about this game?
I mean, I'll just start off by harping on the Jaden Daniels credit. I mean, he's been playing out of his mind. He's been very decisive. He has been very smart with the football, and the Commanders are like very scary on 4th down because of how good Jaden Daniels has been playing. You were very adamant on your Jared Goff Lions point of view, I guess it is. And we saw you be correct. You were very, I don't know like the exact wording, but you were basically just like the Lions aren't going to win a Super Bowl if Jared Goff is their quarterback. And you're trending in the right direction. He did not look great. 3 interceptions.
3 interceptions. You could put a lot of this on the defense, but ultimately at the end of the day, you throw 3 interceptions. And something that spoke measures to me is like they took the ball out of his hand during a very important time to try to run that trick play when J-Mo threw that pick.
So stupid.
When you have an elite quarterback, like you just aren't thinking ever like let's get the ball. Like the Bills are never thinking like let's get the ball out of Josh Allen's hands here. So I just think that speaks measures a little bit. But go ahead and continue with what you're saying.
That play was just a terrible play call. It was trying to be too fancy. And if that never happens, I think we're looking at probably a little bit different of a game here. I still think the Commanders end up winning, but like, I don't know if anybody on the coaching staff looked at anybody else and was like, hey, why don't we just keep giving the football to Jahmyr Gibbs? it
Yeah.
felt like he was ripping 15 yards every time he touched the football, and for them to just stray away from that is coaching malpractice because if you have a guy doing that, what reason do you have to shy away from it and switch to having your wide receiver 2 trying to throw passes?
They felt the I just think flat they felt the pressure. And we saw the worst version of Jared Goff, the version that I always say, like, the reason why I like never gave the Lions like full credit is the version where Jared Goff's pushing and trying to make things happen, trying to
Yeah.
make throws that he can't make. And it really starts to show when the running game isn't fully established the way that they'd like it to. And Jared Goff is trying to push these throws into tight windows, and he's not able to make those throws. 3 picks. The one pick was by the Michigan corner, Mike Sandersill. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yep.
Was a
Yeah.
great play on the ball. Great heads up. And yeah, I was we made a video, and if you don't mind, real quick, the Lions fans absolutely torched us in the comments. And again, I'm gonna read just like a few comments here. Worst takes ever. LOL. You know nothing about football. Horrible takes. You guys suck. Stop talking sports. You guys don't know anything. Loser's gonna hate. This video won't age well. The Lions don't give an F about injuries. This team does not quit. Stop counting them out. We wrote the script on what was going to happen with the Lions. It was they at the end of the day, if you couldn't see the injury issues on this team on defense and offense, everybody was like so hyped to get Monty back. He looked like a shell of himself, and it looked like he
They
shouldn't
didn't
have been
even
playing
need him.
football
They
at
didn't
all.
need him.
And they didn't need him. But it was just everything was building up and trending in the wrong direction for the Lions. And my big thing here is like, what are the Lions going to do in this offseason? That's the conversation that I think is the most interesting coming out of this game, because you're losing your OC, who is like the whiz kid who like every single team wanted. You lose your DC, which if you ask about, I know like we know some people around the league. I've asked them about Aaron Glenn. They're like, he is like the consummate pro. Like he is like
Yeah.
Dan Campbell 2.0. He's going to go into an organization and like absolutely transform it. When you go and you lose two guys who are that important to your organization from like a play calling perspective, and then it sounds like the ultimate pro on the other side of the football, almost like a second head coach in the building, all of that matters. And then the second thing is this Jared Goff situation is going to be looming overhead. I know that he is signed for them to be like their long-term quarterback, but at what point I think the Lions are a very forward-thinking organization. You look at what the front office has done. They've taken a running back in the top 12. Everybody clowned them for it. It turns out to be the right move. They've done so much right in this entire rebuild. But I think the big thing, and I said this in that draft when they had 2 first-round picks, where I said you should trade up and try to take a quarterback, because I think that Jared Goff is limited. I said this 2 years ago. That has shown the past 2 years. You lose in the
Yeah.
NFC Championship, and you lose at home to a Commanders team, and you're a 9.5-point favorite, and you get stomped. And Jared
Yeah.
Goff throws 3 picks. You're limited at that spot. You watch the Rams go to a Super Bowl with Sean McVay and Jared Goff, and they lose 13-3, and they immediately trade Jared Goff for Matt Stafford. I'm not
Yep.
saying that this is going to happen, but 2018, that happened to Jared Goff already, where he made the Super Bowl. Jared Goff has not been able to win the 2 most important games for the Detroit Lions in the past 2 years. And I think that as of right now, losing the DC, losing the OC, we said this about the Niners going into last season, into this season. People are still going to be coming off injuries. Aiden Hutchinson's coming off of a major injury. There's other guys who are coming off of major injuries. You don't come back to playing full form immediately, right away. This is a team
Right.
that I'm going to be right away already. This is a team that I'm going to be fading for next year. We said this about the Niners
Yep.
going into last season. When you can't get over the hump, when you win 15 games, when you get that number 1 seed, when you let down the fans at home in front of everybody, like this actually plays a massive role into vibes and the organization and how they're it's a mental thing at that point where they're like, we actually can't get over the hump. We just won 15 games. We have a stacked offense. We have some of the best coordinators in football, and we couldn't get it done. What's next? And I think that that's going to be a definite a question that they're going to ask themselves this offseason.
Yeah, I think they probably have one of the toughest off seasons coming up. I mean, replacing those two coordinators is not going to be easy. I mean, Aaron Glenn made that defense that was held together by string and duct tape, like look as good as it possibly could have with all the injuries that they had throughout this season. And Ben Johnson has made Jared Goff look like a top 10 quarterback since he started taking over play calling. So
I mean, he
I I,
has.
I think
I have some stats here real quick for you, if that's okay. Lions
hit me.
offensive ranks 1 through 32. Season 2021, they were 23rd in points scored, 23 in drop back, EPA and drop back, 21st in success, 22nd in EPA per play, red zone EPA per play, 27th, 20th in yards per play, first down percentage, 22nd, play action percentage, 28th, motion percentage, 18th, third down avoidance, 18th. Since Ben Johnson has taken over, they are literally top 10 from 2022 to 2024 in every single category.
Yeah.
Every single category. It is so important to have Ben Johnson as your offensive play caller at this point, because we saw when somebody else was calling the plays with Jared Goff, the offense wasn't that successful. So obviously Ben Johnson obviously got talent added each year, which obviously helped as well, but he was getting the best out of Jared Goff in that entire scenario. And I'm definitely worried about him leaving, what Jared Goff will look like depending on who comes in to call these plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we'll realistically see the true version of Jared Goff this upcoming season. Obviously, we can do like more of that when we preview the Lions over the summer. But I mean, first glance, I completely agree with you. When you lose two coordinators to likely head coaching jobs, it hasn't been announced where Aaron Glenn is going yet, but I just saw a bunch of stuff about the Jets, so I'm
Yeah.
keeping that in mind. But when you lose two guys like that, your best player on defense is coming off an ACL surgery, likely won't be at 100% until late in the season next year. And you're coming off a season where you just won 15 games. You had your best season in your franchise history, and you still couldn't even win in the first round of your playoff matchup where you had much more time than everyone else to prepare,
At
like
home,
at home against a
massive
rookie. Now,
favorite. Yeah.
now Jaden Daniels is not playing like a rookie, so
Regardless.
set that aside, but everything else is in your favor aside from the defensive side of the ball with all those injuries. You can't go out there and shit the bed like this.
No. And
And
that
I
go
think that
ahead.
it's just gonna be a very tough battle this offseason for Lions fans, for this organization of what do we do with Jared Goff, like you said? Who do we bring in as our offense and defensive coordinator? Because Dan Campbell is a guy like Sirianni where he's not calling plays. Like he's there for vibes. He's there to make sure that everybody's in order. He's there to bring structure, but he's not calling plays on either side of the ball. So this is what the Lions are going to potentially have to get used to moving forward is do you love your head coach that isn't calling plays on either side of the ball enough to be okay with hiring a new OC and maybe a new DC every couple years? That's
Yeah.
what Eagles fans have to deal with every season. So
Yeah, I
I
completely
don't I
agree.
don't
I real quick, the two things. One, I think that's a good comparison because we watched the Eagles lose two of their like whiz kid coordinators, and we watched how the season went afterwards. They were successful at first, but ultimately when it mattered down the stretch, they crumbled and they lost in the first round of playoffs. I'm not saying that the Lions are going to lose or not are going to go 3-14 next year. And
right.
I want that to be clear. I'm going to obviously say the only thing is you look like the Bears get Ben Johnson. You got to imagine the Bears are at least 2 games better than they were last year at the bare
100%.
minimum. The Packers are one of the youngest teams in football. You have to think that they get better next year. And then the Vikings, I'm completely done sleeping on them because they might be just randomly the best regular season football team
Yeah.
ever, as long as Kevin O'Connell's there. But that is a tough division. It's a competitive division. I still think the Lions will be like minus 110 favorites when it opens up to start the year, the whole nine. But I just want to highlight that it could obviously go bad quickly until they adjust and get things right. And I think that this loss and everything that's going on with the coaches leaving and you think about it, the assistants getting picked, the front office people getting picked, but ultimately at the end of the day, I believe in Dan Campbell as your CEO type head coach, where he's going to do a really good job no matter what, have those guys engaged, have them locked in. And I ultimately believe in their GM and their front office. They've done an amazing job over the past 4 years. And as long as they have that intact, I think that they're going to be able to still be competitive. But I think still, no matter what of anything, I don't think Jared Goff is the answer. We've watched it happen in 2 separate places now. We watched in LA. We've watched it with Detroit. He cannot get teams over the hump, and that's just going to be something that they're going to have to deal with, whether it's cutting losses, going out and potentially getting like a better veteran that they might think might be better. I don't know what's going to be available at this point in time. It's something that obviously it's like a ball of clay right now and we're molding it, but that's just an idea that I'm throwing out there that I think could be a possibility for this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, I also want to make it clear too of when I say that, like, you mentioned it. When we say things are going bad, it doesn't mean like 3 wins, but when you're a 15-win team, like you begin to establish expectations of winning a double-digit football games. Like, I still think the Lions will do that next season, but as of right now, obviously got to see what else they do this offseason, but like, the odds of you winning 15 games again next season are low. Like
No doubt.
I would be more expecting like 10 to 12, 13, 10 to 12 range is like more realistic as of right now going into next season.
I completely agree with you. Do you have anything? I know we just went off on like a whole Lions possibility. Do you have anything else that you want to add about the Commanders Lions game or anything that we missed, or are you good to move on?
I do want to add the one thing that I find very annoying. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. Whenever guys, and a lot of NBA players do this shit too, they rattle off the list of who was drafted before them. Cut it out. Knock it off. Nobody cares. Like, you're in the NFL, you're getting paid to play football, they're getting paid to play football. Like, that's great that you remembered the 10 wide receivers that were taken in front of you, but like, you're a wide receiver and you can only affect the game so much. It's not like you're a quarterback and you touch the football every play. Just knock it off, please. Nobody cares that there was 8 guys at wide receiver drafted before you. You're a great player, Amon-Ra. You're a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. Like, nobody gives a shit that De'Ami Brown was taken before you.
He woke up the wrong dude, though. De'Ami Brown came and balled.
He had a good game.
I just think it's absolutely. I don't think it's highlighted enough that the Lions got absolutely decimated at home at massive favorites. I mean, they had LiAngelo Ball performing before one of the quarters. I mean, like, this team, everybody had them penciled in. Everybody was talking about how good they were, and they went and blew a massive must-win game at home as a big favorite to a rookie quarterback. And as good as Jaden Daniels looks now, the betting markets didn't reflect that. No analysts thought that would be the case. The Lions just flat laid an egg, and I don't think enough people are harping on that point. They just let a lot of people down, including themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
White clouds blowing out when we max 4-5, not the size, but it kick up.